2020 was unanimously a devastating year. What with the soaring cases of COVID-19, many retreated to their movies, books and games for what little solace they could hope to find. Nintendo's timing was simply impeccable then, with the release of Animal Crossing New Horizons this time last year. As evidenced by the astronomical sales, many sought refuge on Animal Crossing's virtual remote islands populated by a host of varied endearing personalities. And for good reason. I was a cynical, grumpy skeptic, but I was glad to be proven wrong. Some of my fondest memories from the last year were those late night couch multiplayer sessions on my brother's Nintendo Switch. What initially started out as casual multiplayer fun eventually warped into hour-long house decorating sessions and fretting about the stock market. But amazingly, never to such an extent that it would become stressful. As the great man once said,
"If it's not fun, why bother?"
I would argue that such a sentiment is true across all Nintendo games, but none more so than with New Horizons. Animal Crossing New Horizons won me, a complete and total cynic who was certain that nothing would ever captivate me like Wild World once did in the Nintendo DSi, completely and totally over. I played New Horizons in what I believe to be the best possible way, sharing a household Nintendo Switch amongst family. This way you share one singular island amongst other people and you all contribute in your own little ways to the island. I honestly think this is probably the best way to experience the game. Each time you log on, something new has changed with the island. I can definitely imagine the Animal Crossing loop becoming quite stale if you didn't have someone to share the fun with, to have someone helping you gather materials for your museum, fish with you, or chase bugs with you. Animal Crossing is a social game and is best experienced with friends or family. If you've kids or younger siblings, don't worry about them ruining your island. Fixing someone else's mess is half the charm. New Horizons is social gaming at its finest and is exceptionally welcoming to those who've never even touched a controller in their life. In my personal experience, the best way to enjoy a game like Animal Crossing is not to take it too seriously. Animal Crossing is your cool-down lap after a run, not an extra 100-meter sprint. I've seen people try to maximize profit day in, day out, analyzing the virtual stock market and arranging fruit trades over Reddit. And if that's the way you want to play, by all means, go for it and don't let me stop you. But in my opinion, however, the game is not a short-term objective-based grind, but a long-term project you chip away at, where it doesn't really matter if you skip a day or two. It'll always be there, waiting for you when you're ready. If you're not in the mood or if you're too busy, that's cool. Animal Crossing cooperates with you on your terms. Building up your island takes time and patience, and Animal Crossing awards those whose patience is willing to be tested. New Horizons is truly excellent as a wind-down game, good for a short, relaxing session to soak in its atmosphere, and by rushing through and grinding out money, you only expose its weaknesses instead of playing to its strengths. It's like playing a left winger in football at fullback, or like lifting weights way heavier than you can handle and thus sacrificing any semblance of technique. Yeah, it'll work, but you're not getting the best outcome from doing so. But on the other hand, is that not the beauty of a game like Animal Crossing, that it can be enjoyed in so many different ways? People who log in once weekly can get the same amount of fun out of it as people who log in, day out, grinding out money like there's no tomorrow. In this sense, Animal Crossing is quite a special game. I'd like to hone in on that last sentence, however. People frequently question whether Animal Crossing even counts as a game. I'd argue that there's no more pure game than Animal Crossing. It exists purely to be fun. It is relaxation distilled. There's no objective in the game other than to just chill out. There are no enemies, no convoluted story, no attempt at being cinematic or artistic, just pure, unadulterated, concentrated fun. In this age, it seems like video games are more concerned with trying to be like movies or trying to be considered fine art. Games such as Kentucky Road Zero transcend the genre and are instead more akin to interactive art. As exciting as it is to see storytelling evolve in the games we play, there is something endearing about a game like Animal Crossing not care about any of that stuff and instead preoccupy itself with just making sure the player has a good time. and what a good time it is. The latest entry in the long-running series is stuffed to the brim with content, lots of which was added in since the original release via content updates. If you really strip it down to its core loop, then yeah, there's not too much to Animal Crossing. Get thing, sell thing, buy thing, repeat. But despite its simplicity, there's something so uniquely fun about unwinding and trying to catch 100 fish in a row. Make no mistake, if you are not intrinsically driven, this game is most certainly not for you. Animal Crossing has the same appeal with that of a Minecraft. You set your own objectives. The game gives you a sandbox and the tools to run wild in it, but it doesn't give you any sort of quest line to follow. You don't catch 100 fish in a row to become the region fishing master. In fact, you don't even get a significant reward. You just get a little stamp in your stamp book. No, you try to get 100 fish in a row because you are intrinsically motivated to do so. If you're not, then you don't, and that's fine. Instead, you might be intrinsically motivated to decorate your island. The gameplay loop is as boring or as exciting as you will it to be. It can either be a collectathon, a min-maxing business tycoon, a life sim, or just a sandbox to run wild in with friends. As such, it's quite difficult to criticize. Many could argue that New Horizons is lacking in content and grows stale too quickly, but plenty others would beg to differ, having logged thousands of hours into the game. If you are intrinsically motivated and don't need a sort of extraneous force willing you forward, such as a damsel in distress, or if you're creatively driven and just need a creative outlet, then you are exactly the target audience for this game. You will doubtlessly fall in love with it. If you just want to cozy up with a cup of coffee and unwind for 20 minutes, then again, Animal Crossing is for you. Unfortunately for those seeking to be challenged, this game doesn't quite scratch that itch. It pretends to be for the first week, oddly enough. New Horizons has objectives and something that might even resemble a story for its first week or so, with villagers setting you requests and goals. It is somewhat deceptive in a way, and for those extrinsically motivated, I'm sure it came as quite a disappointment when the extrinsic motivation just stopped. Personally, I wonder whether there was supposed to be more in regards to quest lines and objectives, but such features were cut due to time constraints. It would certainly explain the dialogue path you can choose to follow in the town hall. What should I do next? Following this path of dialogue is running down a dead end. It just goes nowhere. This is somewhat disappointing. Animal Crossing cares little to cater to those extrinsically motivated. But for those lucky people creatively and intrinsically motivated, New Horizons is simply a marvel. It is endlessly entertaining to landscape your island into the perfect holiday destination, tweaking bits here and there until you're satisfied. It is a gargantuan collectathon between collecting furniture, filling out your Critterpedia, and acquiring crafting recipes. It has a myriad of activities designed to help you unwind between fishing, catching bugs, scavenging fossils, searching for sea creatures, or just soaking in its unique atmosphere. Speaking of its atmosphere, New Horizons captures the essence of coziness quintessentially. I'm a big fan of the soundtrack. It blends perfectly into the background, putting your mind at ease. Its gentle acoustic motifs are coziness distilled. The music is never distracting, it always just blends right in. I found myself walking around whistling the tunes as I do household chores, and is there any higher praise for a soundtrack than that? New Horizons' aesthetic is also excellent. To get the only negative out of the way, it runs at a locked 30 frames a second. It never dips, which is certainly good, but in 2021 we're approaching an era where 60 frames per second is the standard, and going from, say, a PlayStation back to Nintendo's little tablet that could is just a little jarring. Frame rate aside, however, New Horizons is a technical marvel. How the Big N managed to eke out such vibrant, aesthetically pleasing visuals on what is essentially a tablet boggles the mind. In regards to Animal Crossing, I genuinely struggle to see how this smooth, colourful, soft aesthetic can be improved upon in further entries, aside of course from increasing the frame cap. The soundtrack and visuals combine to create a vibe you just can't get anywhere else. What with the abundance of content, excellent atmosphere, and the epitome of a clean aesthetic, Animal Crossing New Horizons is an all-timer that's only going to keep getting better as they keep adding content. This is unequivocally the quintessential Animal Crossing experience. And if you're turned off by the cartoony aesthetic, you're only depriving yourself of a uniquely excellent, superb social atmospheric experience.